You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks. TNM.
Are you ready to listen to Final Wrestling Place? Kick it! Yeah! Yeah! You wanna be in the good place, fool? You better be doing what you're supposed to do. Bad place, little boy. Good place, little man. Break it down. Final Wrestling Place. Final Wrestling Place.
Look at Mr. Copious Notes Taker over here. Why don't you take a picture of him? Maybe we send him over to the Patreon and we can get some money off of them.
That and my feet.
Yeah, can't wait for the Final Wrestling Place Patreon, where it's the Marcus feet pick of the week, feet pick of the month. You just send it. What is that? We are like not even a minute in, and you're already harshing.
That's right.
No, we gotta pull out. I gotta pull out.
We're live, pal.
We're live, pal.
Oh, we're live. All right. Sorry, Mean Gene.
I had to break glass on Carl Lewis real quick. Carl Lewis in here. Welcome to Final Wrestling Place. I'm Tim.
I'm still Marcus, and we are live, pal.
We are live, pal. We're no redos here, Sid.
Uncooked,
uncorked, uncucked, and uncensored. I had to do it for you. Rails. I had to do it for you. But Marcus and I are in good spirits. We're in the money. Opportunity business. Opportunity business has been real good this wild card weekend.
Tim, doesn't it feel great to be rich?
Dog, I need, as of this recording, let me tell you what I need to be happy. Okay.
All right.
I don't ask a lot, sir. I don't want a lot. I just want this. Okay. I need Najee Harris to be an anytime touchdown scorer. I need Najee Harris over 60.5 yards. I need this Bills-Steelers game to be under 37.5. And I need the Eagles and the Bucks to be over 43.5.
All right.
And then I will be a happy clam. Okay. That's what I need. And if they don't give it to me, I'm officially blaming Vansky. Because it's going to be one of the Steelers that's going to ruin it. It's going to be a Steeler thing. I know it. They're going to forget how to play against Josh Allen. But anywho, we're not here to talk about Wild Card Weekend. That was on the Patreon with Sports Talk with Joe, or not Joe. Sorry, I have Joe on the brain. He's just
Brett.
It was Brett and you and Adam talking all things pig ball, and that was always a fun time. Always good to listen to you boys chop it up and get a little hostile with each other. That's always fun. Nothing better than a little hostility between friends, right?
A little hostility and a lot of love.
That's right. That's all it is. We're just a group of like 8 to 10 brothers who just like pick on each other for no reason incessantly. But if anybody else like tries to stand up, it's like we just circle around them and be like, no, he's ours. We beat him up, not you. You don't get to be mean. He's ours.
Yeah, we're the only ones that can pick on Kenny Pickett.
That's right. That's us. Everybody else, you back off. That's our low-hanging fruit, Jack. That's us. But we're here to talk about speaking of some other low-hanging fruit. TNA Wrestling does the work for us, so we don't have to. They release these documentaries of the greatest hits of X, Y, and Z, and we're here to relive it through their eyes, for your eyes. We were supposed to cover the Lone Wolf AJ Styles a few weeks ago, and of course, during our homework, we realized, oh golly, they're going to talk about aces and eights, and we haven't covered aces and eights yet. So, good for us. They have a 3-hour documentary on the aces and the eights.
And guess who watched all 3 hours? These guys right here.
That's us. That's our job. We put ourselves through pain for y'all, for this, for
a lot of hearing the dead man's hand.
Yeah, a lot of dead man's hand. Way too much Bully Ray.
So much Bully Ray.
I thought I was just gonna walk on to Busted Open Radio at some point and just be in there. First thing I'll say, and it has nothing to do about aces and eights, but this documentary had way too few references to Brooketini, brother.
It is a note on here. I've got 1 hour into the gimmick. I've got the Brooketini count is at 0 1 hour through this, and yes. I've never been more disappointed.
Zero
cases of Brooketini being referenced, being said by name in this compilation. So that's really my only big nitpick with the compilation as it stands. I believe it's Garrett who does all these. He does a great job for Impact. Excuse me, for TNA Wrestling. As they are coming off the Hard to Kill event.
Yes,
Zigzag Man. That's cool.
You know, known zigzagger himself, Marcus. How do you feel that as a zigzagger that he's going against Moose first?
I feel like Alex Shelley and the Zigzag Man could have been like an interesting cross section for a lot of people. So of course TNA getting it started right. Let's make Moose the champ,
right?
Because it's not interesting at all.
No, not at all. We also get Ash by Elegance, which is Tony Storm with the serial number filed off. Is that right?
It's different, but if this is the next evolution of all women need to have a gimmick that like conveys power, because like since 2017 everybody needs to be an empress, a princess, a goddess,
a queen,
a boss, on and on and on and on. So if this is the next evolution of that, where it's just like women need to be rich and old timey, I'll count that as a step forward.
Okay, fair enough. I won't, but you're on a higher plane of existence right now than me, so not necessarily not gonna fight it, but definitely don't like it, especially the former Dana Brooke. I know DJ is just doing backflips. That his Ricky Steamboat of a generation is back. Ash by Elegance. I know what I'm getting him for Christmas next year. I'm gonna just go to TNA Shop's website. Does TNA still have a shop? I don't even know, but I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna buy him all of the Ash by Elegance merch. And even if I just watch him like set it on fire on his porch, I don't care. It will be worth the money.
I want to know if the Dana Brooke distaste carries to Ash by Elegance, or if this is just a completely new entity to him.
I would say, based on what I've seen in Discord and outside, this is absolutely a carryover. You can't wash off Dana Brooke stink. You can't. It's kind of like double skunk spray, where you just get You've been skunked twice. You're just bathing in tomato soup and it doesn't work. Side note: have you ever had an encounter with a skunk?
No.
No skunks ever?
Nope. Mm-mm.
I've not either, and I feel like less of a person because of it. Like, I've had wild snakes run up on me before. Like, I've had that. But I've never had, like, a skunk.
I feel like skunks stopped running up on people with, like, the turn of the millennium.
The Y2K bug was really to knock skunks out of existence?
I haven't heard of a good skunk running up on people story since then. Maybe still on animals, but not on people. So I think this is a thing that stopped.
If you're in the Discord and you've got a skunk story, not another story, if you've got a skunk story, hit us up at TNM shows. We'd love to hear about you getting sprayed down by a skunk gland. That'd be sick. But Aces and Eights, the YouTube
possibly also skunky
comp, very skunky in certain places. My first note is that before any of the Aces and Eights are even unmasked, I can pick D'Lo Brown out of a lineup just like that,
brother.
Dog, D'Lo, like, there's certain people you cannot hide in plain sight. Right?
He is unmistakable.
Like, his striking, his movement, like, it was like 17 minutes in, there's nobody unmasked, and I'm just watching this big dude just clobber somebody. I'm like, that's D'Lo Brown.
Right. So for the first 20 minutes of that, it's pretty much just the random jumps, if you will, of Aces and Eights entering the impact zone, getting the jump on people. Chaos and mayhem ensues. But it's mostly 5 masked men that are pretty consistent. There are other people, other anonymous extras underneath the masks or whatever, but the same like 5 people are consistently there whenever Aces and Eights does a beatdown. And I think I got it here in my notes. It's unmistakable that it's D'Lo Brown, it's Wes Briscoe, it is Doc, it's Nux, and then Garrett Bischoff.
Yeah. Especially like as you watch the rest of the documentary, especially that Wes Briscoe like is wearing his hair down and being wild with it as like a dude jumping people in the Aces and Eights. But then if you see him, and it's like Superman Clark Kent, I pull my hair back, I put it in a nice little bun. I'm not the same guy.
But what they forgot to account for was his little Greg Valentine arms.
That's right. Yeah.
Those things stand out 100%.
Yes. What did you think about very early on Aces and Eights? I personally think they made the right call attacking Sting. Like, making Sting the first target, awesome. Especially since like Sting is such an easy foil to handle, and it works great for Sting because everybody knows he works best when he's threatened.
That's right.
That's right. Which we
it's all about the numbers.
Unfortunately, we won't see what Sting looks like threatened for the next couple of months in AEW, but
that's a shame. But I did think it was I thought it was good how it started out, man. Like, you're maybe asking the audience a lot, to suspend their disbelief, which is like the randomness of the people underneath these masks. And it's kind of clear a lot of these people are extras and not like classically trained pro wrestlers. The ones that are in the ring, those are your guys that are wrestlers, and they do a decent job doing these beatdowns and trying to hide, exactly who they are. And trying not to really move like wrestlers. Again, D'Lo's unmistakable. Doc is unmistakable. But going after Sting, it's always a great way to get heat. So I had no problem with it. Instantly gets heat on the group. You get interest because anything that Sting's doing is interesting, especially in TNA where he's a focal point of their programming. And I gotta say, as we get closer and closer to the first reveal of who is a member of Aces and Eights, I thought it was a great first step. I thought this was a great kind of like first bullet point in the Aces and Eights story as to who actually gets unmasked first.
Right, and that would be the Sergeant in Arms himself, Devon.
Yep.
He gets caught up with everybody. Was it Hogan who actually unmasked? Because in the ring it was Hogan, Sting, and Bully in the corner. And I think Hogan unmasks and Bully sees Devon face to face, but we have Devon's back. Oh, it's a hard cam. But I think it's super cool, or I think it's interesting that Devon is the first guy, right?
Yeah, so for our timeline, that is at Bound for Glory 2012. So all of this starts while they're doing the Bound for Glory series, leading into Bound for Glory 2012. And Aces and Eights that kidnap Joseph Park. They're beating down Sting. They're beating down Hogan. Hogan comes back. He grows in the dark part of his beard to become Hollywood Hogan, which again, Hollywood Hogan, totally acceptable form of bad Terry. They kidnap, or they get Hogan and Sting in with their hands tied behind them. They get them to agree to a tag match at Bound for Glory, but Hogan can't be in the match. So it's Sting, and Sting chooses Mr. Anderson, while Anderson gets beat down by Aces and Eights backstage. So Bully Ray inserts himself and says, "Hey, that's your guy. He already got jumped. You need to pick me." Sting picks Bully Ray, and then that's how we get to this tag match here at Bound for Glory, where if Aces and Eights win, they get free access to the Impact Zone.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose, they'll go away, return Joseph Park. But they pick up the win here. After they get the win, Hogan comes down the ramp, and this is kind of that clip that's gone viral recently of just like people feeding into Hogan on the ramp while he's just like nonstop. Boom, block a punch, give a punch, couple steps, block a punch, give a punch. He works his way down the whole ramp, gets in the ring, and then we get the unmasking of Devon.
Right. One thing I do want to pause on is, at least in this first stretch of Aces and Eights, the comparison does get made eventually on the documentary that like Aces and Eights is an updated version and a better version of the NWO. And while I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment entirely, I do like the tweaks they do for Aces and Eights compared to that NWO storyline, because there's a lot of one-to-one connections. But for the fact that they had to wrestle their way into having access, as opposed to just Hall and Nash just having like free reign from like pretty much Jump Street. Like, I don't necessarily recall Bash at the Beach having any sort of like happenstance or any sort of nuance to the rest of it. Because it had already been announced that Hall and Nash were contractually or are a part of WCW. So they're allowed to be there.
No longer affiliated with the WWF, at least.
Right. Yeah. And so for the fact that at least the Aces and Eights storyline had stakes very early that allowed for them to run roughshod, I thought was a really sweet touch. And I also dug that we didn't know everybody all at once.
Exactly.
It was a bunch of anonymous people and like one or two dudes at a time getting unmasked and unveiled, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and it's like the people getting unmasked, as we go through the people that get unmasked in their order, they're not the biggest names, but they do a really good job of having those people be tied into stories that are already existing for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Or when somebody does get unmasked, it's like, hey, well, this guy is really known in the pro wrestling world as like a heavy for people, which when we get to Doc Gallows, like that's how they present him is like, oh, well, he's a known bodyguard, heater type of character. And I was like, okay, well, that's a cool way to like, hey, like we know this guy, we know what kind of role he fits into. Okay, so who is he the heater for? Like it advances the story in that aspect.
Right. And the same thing with Nux too. Because I think Nux gets unmasked before Doc.
I got here in my notes that Doc Gallows is the second key member made known.
Okay. Yep, that follows. That tracks.
Yeah.
The director of chaos. Don't tell Okada. He'd be mad.
Which is crazy. It's crazy that like the Doc part of that has followed since then.
Like Doc Gallows is a great name.
Yeah, it's. I would never think about calling him anything else other than Doc Gallows.
Like Luke Gallows is a whole different person. Dorian DeVille is not the same guy. Fake Kane, whoever you want to say. Like that's Doc. That's Big Doc. And ain't nothing about. I think this might be. Is this Height of Powers Doc Gallows?
Think so.
That's crazy. So. That's crazy to think that him is like a B tier member of the Aces and Eights. That he's like. Actually, I wouldn't necessarily consider him B tier if he's like actually got a name.
Yeah, he was A tier. He's not S tier member, but right. Yeah, he's in that next step.
Yeah, he's right there with Devon. Like Sergeant in Arms, the director of Chaos.
Yeah. He's the core member.
He is a core 4 member of the Aces and Eights. Things start to get a little weird a little later in the documentary, I think. I don't know if our notes line up. What do you have next as a bullet point to go over?
So we got like more attacks. It just seems really clear through the bodies that like it's Wes, it's Garrett, it's D'Lo, it's Doc, it's Nux. And now they start to weave in Gut Check, which has been a segment on TNA.
Okay,
they start weaving that in by the inclusion of Garrett Bischoff taking on Wes Briscoe. Wes being taken under the tutelage of Perk Angle, and we get Wes Briscoe being given his TNA contract by Gut Check, where mysteriously Al Snow cannot be the third man of the Gut Check hearing board or whatever. So D'Lo Brown volunteers to step up because D'Lo Brown is tagged as TNA's top agent, and we see him in backstage skits during this of whenever Hogan, Sting, Dixie, whenever they have these meetings at the cameras. And again, great job with TNA with how they shoot these things, like kind of guerrilla style.
They have forever crushed the backstage segment with just lens lice everywhere. Like there's always in a TNA segment, people aren't just in the backgrounds for no reason.
Yep.
Like everybody is meticulously placed in the scene to be brought up. But like you mentioned the Gut Check, and who are the 3 people involved in the Gut Check?
Oh, baby. So we've got the Red Hook Rocket himself, Taz.
Future member of Aces and Eights.
We got our boy Sweet Brucey.
Future member of Aces.
And we've got known pyramid schemer himself, Al Snow.
Right.
Allegedly with the Suplex brand.
Sorry about that. Al Snow, not available to make it. In steps D'Lo Brown. And I think this is an interesting wrinkle too. Like the Aces and Eights oversaw like everything. They knew how things are going to work. So in order for them to not seem like there was anything going on, when Brucey said yes to Wes, Taz had to throw the herring and go no. to allow D'Lo to solidify his spot as absolutely not being aces and eights.
Yep.
And saying yes, knowing that he just got an aces and eights dude a contract for the company.
Yep.
So sick.
Yeah, really well done. So Wes Briscoe is in as a roster member. Again, it's not known that he is a member of Aces and Eights because they're doing the gimmick with the hair, like you pointed out. Again, he's got his little Greg Valentine arm, so they don't really do too good of a job disguising him, but they kind of try. So the next bullet point I have here is we get the backstage gorilla footage of them of the cameras getting Hogan getting into his car, and he's all pissed off about aces and eights and stuff like that, and just general chaos in TNA. And then you see Bully Ray, Mark, making out with Brooketini.
Dude.
And Hogan storms out of the parking lot.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, the next thing is Bully wants to talk to Bad Terry in the ring, and Brooks like, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe we shouldn't do that. He knows. And Bully's like, he's like anybody who's ever gotten in trouble. About
who knows?
Like,
what is there to talk about?
Like he's double speaking the whole time. He's like, what is there to know? How does he know?
You mean he don't really know about us? They don't know, baby. They don't really know. I peeped that very early on. I was like, this sounds a lot like that song with Paul Wall.
Pow wow.
Paw
Whatever happened to
Wow.
Paul Wall? The wiki? I need a journalism on Pow Wow.
Paul is still in Houston, and he's a really big sports fan down in Houston. And so I think he spends a lot of his time going to sporting events in Houston and being a local celebrity.
Sure. Is he own a car dealership?
Not yet.
Pow Wow. I would buy a car. Would you buy a car from Paul Wall?
I would not.
Aw, come on.
But next up, we do get the unmasking of Nux, and this is in a cage match. It looks like there's an Aces and Eights member against Kurt Angle, I believe. And this is where Nux gets unmasked.
I love the addition of Nux.
And I think right before that cage match, that's I think somewhere in here, Anderson joins Aces and Eights.
They don't show it in the documentary when.
No, they didn't.
When the Lieutenant Man, Ken Anderson, joins. He just happens to be. He just somehow magically gets his cuts in this documentary.
Yeah, but his thing is, he got beat down, and the only people that checked on him were Aces and Eights. Nobody from TNA checked on him. Hogan didn't, Sting didn't, and so he's going to join Aces and Eights. So you get that form of an adage to the group,
right?
Because I feel like that happens in at least like every notable pro wrestling stable that like has large numbers. You jump somebody, and it's like, oh well. Hey, they jumped me, but then I finally got it.
Right.
And so now I'm with them.
Like, they jumped me, and the people who are supposed to be my family don't give a crap. And those who beat me up are the ones who are trying to prop me back up.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of
so this is where we get
Stockholm Syndrome.
And this is where we get to the 1 hour mark. Brooketini count is at 0, like we talked about. So that's disappointing. But now we get the in-ring promo. And I feel like this is I don't know if it's a top 100 segment in TNA history, but I do feel like it's pretty important. This is where you got Sting, you got Hogan, you got Brooketini, and you got Bully Ray all in the ring. And this is where Bully Ray proposes to Brooketini.
Go back and listen to our wedding season where we talk about the wedding of Brooketini and Bully Ray. And part of me had a deja vu moment all over again. And then I was like, oh, that's right. We partially covered this. This is sick.
Sure
I don't know. I don't know if we've already covered it or it's already happened in our timeline. But there's a big hullabaloo between all the members of the Aces and Eights and like there's like a horde coming from the locker room, and like Sting's like, let me introduce you to the TNA locker room, and TNA brings the fight to Aces and Eights. In my head,
yeah, I think that's shortly after Bound for Glory.
Right. So in my head, when I saw that, I'm like, why didn't WCW ever do that to the NWO?
Mm-hmm.
Like, WCW were busters against the NWO until what? Luger beats Hogan at Road Wild?
Well, here's the thing. Who's the person that comes down the ramp to organize that? It's Sting. He's the leader, and WCW didn't have their leader because they alienated Sting. So that's why that never happened.
But you'd think that somebody else could have stepped up, right?
Nobody can fill the shoes of the man called Sting.
I know. It's crazy, right? But continue on with the Aces and Eights.
All right, so we got our wedding. Go back and check out the wedding episode. Like you said, we get Taz joining Aces and Eights. They do a big beatdown during the wedding, in which I noted Taz might be wearing his WrestleMania 17 pants during this higher power promo, which is the week after the wedding. Taz alludes to a higher power. So again, we get like, all right, Taz he's a name, but he's not the name. So now we're building up to, we're getting home to who is the big name, who is the higher power, if you will, behind Aces and Eights. We've had all these other preliminary members kind of introduced, but now we're building towards the big reveal.
Gotta say, I hated the use of the phrase higher power. I hated it.
Yeah.
Higher power is one man and one man only, period.
It's me, Austin.
Son of a bitch. 2, Taz cuts this exact same promo, like word for word, during the Daily's Place era of AEW when talking about Team Taz. Talking about the path of rage, and like Taz has all these Tazisms that he flips into when he's like wrestler Taz that I hate.
Right.
But when
it's Taz having to do a 7-minute stand up in the ring.
I hate it. I know.
Mm-hmm.
I got nothing for that. I need Taz brain off everything Jones at the commentary table, or
Yahtzee, Yambagging, Pigeons Loose.
Pigeons Loose. I need the brain on and the mouth off and him just suplexing guys. No in between. Sorry.
Well,
no
he's not going to be doing...
No disparity to the Red Hook Rocket himself.
Well, speaking of suplexes, we got the Percocet suplex machine, Kurt Angle, during this time, as we get to our next unmasking, as Kurt Angle is going to be in a cage with the Aces and Eights member, and it turns out it's Garrett Bischoff who unmasks himself. There's a moment of confusion. Wes is in there as well, and then Wes chop blocks Kurt Angle, and then we get the double reveal that both Wes and Garrett are in Aces and Eights, as Wes lets down his hair, because that's how we know it's that guy from Aces and Eights. Right.
Like, it's the only wild child hair guy from Aces and Eights. I kind of like this. If anything, just having young boys in this group makes it a little bit better, as opposed to just being a bunch of like old, disgruntled WWE guys. Because that's what it's been up until this point, right? When
you got a group with numbers like this, you need kind of your two like bottom feeders of the group who are going to go in there and like going to be your guys to go get beat, right?
Yeah, go out there, fight him.
Good use, and at least they built it in by doing the gut check with these guys, so that like okay, you weaved in another story. It's not like, who's that? It's Garrett Bischoff. What's Bischoff's kid doing in this?
Yeah, and like for a certain extent, TNA kind of did the vetting on Garrett and Wes for the Aces and Eights through the gut check. So Aces and Eights have seen the exact same thing that TNA has seen, And they recognized early on that these guys are impressionable young talents that could absolutely get their hooks in at a very early point in time. But yeah, I loved it. I have loved everything with Aces and Eights so far. But
all right, so we're chugging along. We're getting closer. We're getting the build up to Lockdown 2013. So we're in February, March of 2013, and this is where I got our next bullet point, where we got Bully backing Hogan in the UK, where they have their set of Impact tapings in the UK, which is like some of the best business TNA ever did, like to this date still. Those Impact tapings looked awesome.
Yeah, they did.
So Bully joins Hogan in the ring with the chain to thwart off Aces and Eights. We get a big pull-apart brawl with Aces and Eights in the TNA roster, in which this is where D'Lo joins the group by low-blowing Kurt Angle. And I sent you a picture for reference.
Oh, yes,
which we will include in the gimmick, what do you call it, the Discord, where D'Lo Brown looks like Max from Cats Don't Dance. This MFer is so barrel chested.
Oh yeah, he is. Oh man, he's such a big man. By the way, I love D'Lo.
Yeah, you forget how big he is.
It's
like he's every bit of like 6'3", 6'4", close to 300 pounds. He's just a large human being.
The attitude,
he looks like the Big Boss Man.
The Attitude Era did not do justice the fact that everybody in the WWE at the time was huge.
Monsters.
Everybody looks normal because all these freak people are next to each other on a regular basis. But if you start taking these freaks out of their contained bubble and you put them in with regular looking people in TNA Wrestling, like it's not a good, like D'Lo is bigger than Nux. Like he's almost as big as Doc.
Like he is comically huge for what you think of D'Lo Brown and like the image in your head, and then you see him next to like other big men in wrestling, and it's like, oh wow,
it's Billy Gunn syndrome.
Yeah,
Billy Gunn was like not anything to write home about really on TV, and then like you start seeing him out in public, and he's like, oh my god, this is the biggest man I've ever seen.
Is that picture floating around of like Billy Gunn and Brock Lesnar from like 2013, where Brock Lesnar is, I think it's like 2014, but like Billy Gunn is dwarfing Brock Lesnar.
I'm still taking Brock in a fight.
Yeah, but it's just the size, speaks to the size, because I'm a size queen. So we're getting closer to Lockdown 2013, and this is where we've got Bully Ray taking on Jeff Hardy for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. This is from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio.
And this also predates something that happened in Impact during the Bound for Glory series, because Bully was primed and ready to win that whole thing. And Jeff Hardy comes back. Like they thought that Jeff Hardy was out. And Jeff Hardy, by Aces and Eights, Jeff comes back and beats Bully to inject himself into that title picture, which now we pay off at Lockdown. Kind of, Impact does not get the credit it deserves. And if I'm being extremely honest with you, Marcus, I am ready to buy TNA Plus, and I am fully ready to turn this show into a TNA watch through podcast where we skip the Asylum era, we pick up in the Impact Zone, and we go until we're sick of it. That's what I want to do.
Get sick of it
so bad. I want to do it. Somebody call our bluff on the Discord. Somebody call our bluff.
Maybe Patreon. I wouldn't hate it. But yeah, man, we get the big reveal Aces and Eights jump in the ring, in the cage. You get Devon slips the hammer to Bubba. Bubba hammers Jeff Hardy with the mallet, the ball peen hammer,
which is a
interchangeable
callback to
in the
when
world of pro
Sting got
wrestling.
first jumped.
Yep. Picks up the 1, 2, 3. We got a new champ, and then we get this really cool visual where Bully cuts the promo explaining, "I am, the head of Aces and Eights or whatever, the president, and I am your TNA World Heavyweight Champion." The bottles just start flying in up over the cage from the crowd. It's a really awesome visual.
And what was the verbiage that he used on Bad Terry and Brooketini?
Oh, he said,
because
I think he said,
he flips the words.
"I used you."
Yes.
He says, Hulk, I used you, and Brooke, I screwed you.
And
or something.
If you think about it, he should have flipped him.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually makes sense because he used Hulk to get to the spot for the title, and he screwed Brooke literally to even be in this position where he could use Bad Terry.
Yep.
So because he made Bad Terry look like a fool, does that give Bully Ray just a small chocolate bunny from us at Final Wrestling Plays?
I'm gonna say that this point in time right here is probably as big and complete as his chocolate bunny ever was.
Yeah, and then he's deep throating his bunny. Just he couldn't eat it fast enough. He almost eats his elbow.
So what I've got here as a note is I thought that up until this point, this story, which has started back in September, October of 2012, now we're in March of 2013, and with Bully being revealed as the head of Aces and Eights, I thought this was a really awesome way to get the world title on what is an unproven guy in that spot, because Bully is a tag guy. He's done the work as a heel. He did the work as a babyface now, but he still hasn't had the ball to run with it. And you have all these top guys still in TNA: Hogan, Sting, Angle, the list goes on and on. To get the title on Bully Ray, I thought this was right. I thought this was an awesome way to have such a strong story. I'm not going to say it didn't matter who was going to be the head of Aces and Eights, but whoever that person was going to be made and was going to be justified because of how strong the story is up until this point in time. So I thought kind of taking a risk on Bully, but also giving him this net and this prop of Aces and Eights and how good the story's been. I thought it was kind of perfect.
Right. It's unfortunately too, once Bully wins the TNA Wrestling World Championship, this is immediately where the wheels start to fall off of the Aces and Eights. It's almost like a direct decline, right? And the next part of the documentary that we get is literally 15 minutes of Bully Ray explaining how the Aces and Eights did what they did to get to where they are now with him as world champion.
Yeah, and that's where they go through step by step, bullet point by bullet point of the Aces and Eights story. They explain, I thought this was cool by Bully, that Aces and Eights plan A was to jump the Impact roster so that they could hurt Jeff Hardy
to win the Bound for Glory series.
Exactly. So Bully could get the Bound for Glory series, and that's it. And then when that failed, that's when all this chaos had to unravel as plan B. None of this was supposed to happen. It was the long con, exactly. So he didn't get the short-term return on his investment, so they had to go to the long game, and that one was the most destructive path.
Right. Now, after this, the documentary dives into the Lone Wolf AJ Styles.
Exactly. So that's where that coverage is going to really tie in.
And this is where we're essentially done telling the Aces and Eights story. There's a couple.
I've got a couple other notes, but yeah,
there's a couple other things, but like the last real big part of the Aces and Eights story that does not involve like the ending of Aces and Eights involves AJ Styles and the Lone Wolf saga, which we are covering next week. So consider the Aces and Eights story being told into two parts because it does directly relate to what we're going to cover next week for AJ Styles.
Yeah. So the stuff that doesn't directly relate to AJ, I'll just hit here bullet points real quick. We get dissension in the ranks. This is the first time we're seeing dissension as D'Lo taps out to Angle and gets booted out of the group. We get the group vote for Anderson as the new VP, and it seems like Doc is out, which kind of lines up with him going Bullet Club in the New Japan route.
Right.
So all for greener pastures. So now we've gotten rid of two people in the group. We get Chris Sabin, which he's kind of de facto Lex Luger in this story. If AJ is going to be Sting once you start the no one run of AJ Styles, he gets a short title reign in here. I don't say short, but he gets a decent title reign in here by utilizing Option C and exchanging the X Division title or whatever to beat Bully Ray at Destination X, which at the time aired on Spike TV as an Impact special because they'd cut down the number of pay-per-views.
Yep.
So that's a big moment in TNA history. We get the August 1st warning, which is Tito Ortiz and possibly the biggest fart in church in wrestling history.
Without question. Boy, did nobody want to see Tito Ortiz ever.
We get Bully regaining the title from Sabin as Tito turns on Rampage Jackson. Another steel cage match. This time, I believe it's at Hardcore Justice, which was August set of tapings. Again, that aired as a special on Impact for 2 weeks. We get Devon losing a loser leaves town match to AJ, so Devon's out of the group. We get Tito getting his cut without a group vote,
right?
And Miss Tessmacher being formally introduced or added in as like the club babe, and this sparks more dissension in the group because the group didn't vote on Tito Ortiz getting his cut. This was 100% Bully call. Mr. Anderson tries to form a coup by getting the remaining members of Aces and Eights on his side to go up against Bully Ray. Anderson somehow gets a title match. It's the last man standing. He takes on Bully Ray. He loses. He gets injured out of the group. Wes loses. He has to give up his cut. And now we're like really over the 1 year point of the storyline. We get Anderson who comes back in and he beats Bully Ray to dissolve the group at Turning Point 2013, which leads us to the final Aces and Eights segment, which was in November of 2013. We are on the doorsteps. We are on the doorsteps of CM Punk leaving WWE in that Royal Rumble match. Like, this is that time period. And I can't believe, like, in the TNA world, this is where we're at in the world of wrestling. And this is the funeral service for Aces and Eights. It features Anderson, Angle, Magnus, Joe, Mike Tenay, and Eric Young, where they kind of just bury the whole group. And I thought that kind of sucked because I was like, this thing was really good. Probably up until even like, I wouldn't say it completely levels off until like Bully gets the title back from Chris Sabin. I think is probably where this thing has like outlived its purpose. But to have a storyline go on for almost a whole year and still have legs, I thought was really good. But Anderson does his poor Dane Cook stand up. We got Samoa Joe up there giving out drinks to the boys, where the highlight is he goes to give one to Angle and he's like, maybe not.
It's really tough to say. I think the highlight of Aces and Eights is kind of when Bully wins the title the first time. And I think everything we get after that is just diminishing returns. Because the beauty of Aces and Eights was the fact that you didn't have the full puzzle. And then once you get the puzzle completed, it's really tough to do. Like, what made it work for a full year was there was unanswered questions. Once all of those questions are answered, now it's just, okay, how long before TNA can beat an entity that they fully know? Which also, and like, I'm not trying to knock TNA, but if I'm going to give any red points to anything, it's the fact that Aces and Eights is like the third or fourth super group in a row that TNA has to overcome and defeat. Between Immortal, Fortune, the Main Event Mafia, the Aces and the Eights, like all of that, it's super tough to look at that and just not go, are they just copying Chikara? Because that was Chikara's whole MO for the longest time.
Well, that, and you
Big
also
super
have
group versus the roster.
You also have like Russo and the sphere of Russo's influence leading into Bischoff, and they both are just kind of like redoing NWO,
right,
without using the NWO letters, but like it's their calling card. And anytime you have bookers, like you want to have them have, you know, different calling cards, but those guys have the same exact. And even though Bischoff claims he never had any kind of, you know, storyline say in TNA outside of whatever Hogan did, the influence is clearly seen there.
Yeah. I mean, TNA really did copy an A and get an A with the Aces and the Eights in regards to how they are directly compared to the NWO. I think they're a more efficiently run NWO until you finally figure out who the leader is. And then I think the NWO was definitely more interesting after you have the full group. Because also, too, the NWO kept growing. The NWO kept growing after, like, they hit their peak. There was still new people being added. And at least for Aces and Eights, it felt like it was a whole unit.
Yeah, and like, Bully's the last new member.
But he isn't even the newest member. He's the first member.
Right.
And
he's the
so,
first
like,
member, yeah.
The only time they ever look to add is AJ. But that's when you lose. You've lost Devon. You've lost Doc. So you're starting to try to fill pieces in. It's just weird. I feel like if maybe the Aces and Eights had like actually got new recruits and people jump to the Aces and Eights after everything they've done, that might have given it more legs, but instead it just like it fizzles out because those who are left behind aren't necessarily captivating people on television.
Right. And I think they needed to find a way, because it definitely peaks at lockdown, and any good angle needs to have a peak. But now it's like, okay, once you've peaked, what's the leveling off process look like? And their leveling off process was good. I just think it needed to kind of reach its crescendo with the group somewhere around the timing of Slammiversary. You get the Sabin win at Destination X. Bully probably should have got the title back a little bit sooner than Hardcore Justice. And then somehow, and we'll talk about it next week, maybe it's like, where can you fit in this no one run of AJ Styles? Because that doesn't line up with when the group angle should have crescendoed like it's Slammiversary-ish. Instead, they're trying to make it a full 1 year by making it to Bound for Glory 2013, which is admirable. But you can see the peak of this angle is at Lockdown, which is in March. So ideally, I think if you could have found a time around June to take the belt off of Bully. Probably better than waiting until October at Bound for Glory.
Right. It's kind of the tough part, right? All in all, where do you put Aces and Eights after seeing everything so far? I gotta put them. I'm good. I'm good with them.
I gotta put them in the good place. It's really good stuff. Is it perfect? No, but is it perfect for a long time?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. It's definitely
there's not a misstep in this angle from the beginning in like September, October 2012 till at least until Bully wins the title at Lockdown in March.
It's definitely worth going back and watching. Whether you get TNA Plus or you just watch the whole like supercut on YouTube, I would definitely take some time and pay this some respect. Even though Bully Ray is not necessarily a preferred on the network for us, I think there's enough here that really might get you to change your tune on Bully. Even for like a small period of time, right? By no means am I trying to cape up and drink some Bully juice. I don't want that. Like, I'm on too many pills right now. I don't need another. I don't need any Bully Ray. I'm good. But everything else, man, like this is scandal proof stuff until at least Bully wins the title. And then after that, diminishing returns.
Exactly.
Good
place Jones for me.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where this Lone Wolf AJ Styles documentary is. Like I said, like we've watched it, but I kind of stopped once I realized that the Aces and Eights were going to be a huge part of this documentary. So I will go back and watch the Lone Wolf stuff now with kind of sharper eyes, especially since it will play directly into what we just covered now. We'll put all that on the Discord and on TNM shows on Twitter for that. Marcus, did anything rock for you this week?
Did anything rock? You know who had a TV match this week? The man, the franchise, the icon, Sting.
That's right.
This Sting and Darby tag match against Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs. That's the kind of match that should be Sting's last match. This was great. I really loved it. And I thought Sting giving the Scorpion Death Drop to Powerhouse Hobbs off of like the elevated platform surrounding the ring through the tables at ringside was definitely Dudes Rock worthy and was the highlight of my wrestling watching for this week. What about for you?
So all I can say is that I'm so thrilled to hear more and more people on the soon-to-be-named network getting their prescriptions. I'm hearing prescriptions getting filled daily. At this point, I'm part owner of the narcotic. I've been in on the ground floor. The Nightmare family has written me in. It's so awesome to hear the positives on Cody. My man's going to be the best man of some stranger's wedding. That's pretty cool. Whether you don't like it because you just want to be negative Nancy and you don't care because you don't like anything fun. And you think
really.
And you think Cody's a phony. A big fat phony.
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I think he's a walking PR machine.
Okay, so if you were to describe Cody Rhodes, what adjectives would you use?
Nightmare.
Okay.
Narcotic.
Sure.
Blonde.
Please stop
Not
giving...
natural.
Oh, not natural. Got it.
What? Not natural blonde. What do you mean?
No, that's not what you said. You said not natural.
Oh. No, that's what I said.
You're just... Cody's out here just doing the stuff and the things that need to get done to keep everybody happy and on their toes. Like on the up
I'll
and
give
up.
Cody this credit. He's taking the walking PR torch from John Cena, and I would say he's lighting the flame higher.
Yeah. Not CM Punk. John Cena never did like the outward stuff that you saw all the time.
Or at least we didn't hear about it.
We didn't. That's what I'm saying.
We never heard of John Cena on Twitter taking care of people's tickets. Basically just, again, being a human PR machine to the boots on the ground, the actual fans that come out to these events. Make a wish, some kind of organized thing. Of course, John Cena is going to be there front and center. But this kind of stuff of a tweet getting back to Cody and Cody being like, let me see if I can take care of this. Whatever the motives or intentions are behind it, it's a great look for Cody and it's a great look for WWE. And as a whole, it's a great look for wrestling because there needs to be more of that.
I will say this to young Cody right now. Be very, very careful. Because if you keep this up, you're going to turn into Dwayne. And people hate The Rock right now because he's an outward show of affection guy. Oh, man, brother, I bought everyone in my family a house. I bought everybody in my family a new truck. Terramana toast. Everything is like, it's essentially the same thing, except The Rock is doing it in like on planet Earth and Cody's doing it in the WWE universe.
Exactly. Yep.
Cody needs to watch it because he can only, as the genie of the WWE, he is only allowed to fulfill wishes for a certain amount of time before he runs out of wish magic. He cannot overkick his wish quota, and then people will think that he is just doing this to get adoration from the internet, and then the internet will hate it, and then he will be buried into a new hole that he's already in because he's not finishing the story.
It might happen on wrestling Twitter, but I don't know if it'll ever happen within the WWE universe. It just seems like this new fan base that has quietly been turned over since COVID. People who started watching wrestling since 2019, since 2020. They've got a long time before they get bitter.
I would hope so. But, these times they are a-changing. So, who knows? Is there anything else you needed to cover this week you wanted to go over?
What's the over-under opportunity business looking like for your car?
Oh, that under-over opportunity. So I got a call on, let me see what day it was. So I got a call on Thursday, which was the 11th.
Okay. Oh.
That said they just now took the body off my car and they're checking the structure of the car for more damage, and that they would give me a call on Tuesday to let me know how things are going. Tuesday would be the 16th. I dropped my car off on Monday, and they didn't get the body off my car until Thursday.
Chalk one up for the over.
Again, I cooked the book on this one. This is my fault.
Nah, man. It's whatever it is, whatever excuses. Nah. The over is the over, the under is the under, and I accounted for all outside extenuating circumstances, and so did the rest of the overtakers. And it feels good to get this one right.
Sure.
Sorry about your car.
Nah, it's okay. I got a rental. Everything's fine. Even though it's very small. It's so tiny. Oh, I got a fun...
They give you a Sentra?
They gave me a Sentra.
Oh, I hate those.
I do too.
I absolutely hate those.
Yeah, I felt like Magilla Gorilla getting in it. I'm just so big. But I can't get the seat right. Everything's weird. I do like having Apple Play in my car. That's really cool. But so I have a story to tell about the rental car lady. I don't know if I told this story.
No.
Okay, so I book my rental for Monday morning at 8 a.m. Right? Because that's when I'm dropping my car off at the shop to go, and I didn't take off for work because I'm dropping my car off at 8. I don't have to be at work till 9:30. Like, what's the big deal? So I'm waiting. 8 o'clock rolls around. Nothing. 8:10. Nothing. 8:15. Nothing. 8:20. The dealership gets a call, and they come out and talk to me and go, "Hey, that was I almost said their name. They're not a sponsor. But this rental car place,
Enterprise, you said it last week.
Okay, Enterprise is on their way. They're running a few minutes late." And in my head, I'm like, "Thank you for calling me 20 minutes late to tell me you're going to be late. I already knew that. I'm just glad you didn't forget me." So this blonde lady pulls up in this white Nissan Sentra. She goes, "Are you looking for a rental?" I'm like, "Yep." She's like, "Get in." So I get in the passenger seat, and she's driving me to this other collision place that they have another car that they need to pick up. So we're going to do the swap there. Well, she tells me the reason why she's late. Apparently, on the way to me, she got busted doing 61 and a 40.
Good grief.
In my rental. And she was like, "I tried to talk to the cop about giving me a break, and like how I was like, I'm currently at work, I'm driving this car to somebody." And that cop said, "Nah." Cop wrote her up, and then she was like, "But I'm 4 months pregnant, blah, blah, blah." And in my head, I'm like, sucks to suck, lady. Don't be bad.
The baby made you do it?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Like, what on earth are you trying to tell me? So I had to listen to her vent for like 8 minutes about getting pulled over to start her day and how this is her first like issue on her driving record, and they're going to have to contact her insurance. And I'm curious if it's going to have anything to do with my job because I was driving a rental when it happened, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, well, maybe the judge can be talked down to like 19 over so it won't be so bad. And other than that, I'm just like, I don't know, lady. What do you want me to tell you?
Sorry about your luck.
Sorry about your D luck, as notable possible aces and eights leader, Tennessee Cowboy James Storm would say. But yeah, man, I could not. And then I almost got like T-boned by a dude in the rental. Oh my God. People are just bad. I hate drivers. It's really just like irking me how bad drivers are.
I feel like driving got worse post-COVID.
It did, because everybody got inside and nobody started playing GTA to keep their sticks up. Nobody kept driving. Like, everybody just stopped.
Any weekly purchases for you, Mr. Tim?
No. I've been good. I'm gonna have to start doing some purchasing here soon. I gotta get a hotel for Virginia. I may have to buy a couple of tickets for a show in Virginia coming up in February.
That'd be February 3rd for Virginia Championship Wrestling.
That's right. The Overman EC3 taking on the Pigman, the Boar. Gonna be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. I will be there. So just ask me any questions and I'll answer whatever I can answer. Especially on or around the 3rd. But I got to book my stuff for that. I got to figure out what I'm doing for the Rumble, because you're going to be spoken for on the 27th.
That's right.
I'm gonna try to I'm debating on whether I'm gonna go local, like if I'm gonna watch it at home, or if I'm gonna go and hang out with a group of people. I'm debating. I'm very, very up in the air about it. Just don't know if I want to drive anywhere. Especially since I'm going to be a mover and a shaker between February and April. So you and I got to talk WrestleMania still. So we'll figure that out. We'll cross that bridge. Did you have any weekly purchases?
Nah, man. Classical seg.
Got it. If that is everything for us, I'm going to say is be on the lookout for the Patreon, for the At Odds Patreon. Right now there is the football preview for the postseason. Also the mid-season round ball will be coming soon, around Valentine's Day. So get your loved ones, get your steak and your candy hearts and bring them to the table. It'll all be fun. But we are proud members of the soon to be named network. At STBN Network on Twitter. That's your spot for this. So many other podcasts, including but not limited to our wrestling offerings of At Odds with Wrestling with Joe and Adam. Get in on the At Odds Rumble opportunity. Marcus, how many spots you got?
2 in each.
2 in each. I have 1 in each because that's all I need, Jack. Just 1. Get at the At Odds Rumble opportunity. Contact Vansky to get in on that if you haven't already. But also, We Need Wrestling with DJ and Brett. The season of the Royal Rumbler is here. The 03 Royal Rumble has been watched, done, and dusted, including the telling of Christian's glow up. So much there. I really need to figure out the At Odds or the We Need Wrestling drinking game, because I feel like I would get tore up hearing Michelle talk about how she has never seen a person in her entire life. Every Rumble. It's so great. But check out everything there. Wings on Wings, Longbox Heroes After Dark, Puzzle Warriors 3, Profane Argument, the whole deal. If you want to follow us on social media, you can. At Not the Toolman for me. At The Wrestling Speakeasy for Marcus. If you know, you know. At TNM Shows on Twitter. You get everything for us covered. But really just on your podcatcher of choice, check Final Wrestling Place. Look for WWE War on the North-South Connection. And we will be back here to talk about the No One era of AJ Styles, as there's literally snow falling outside my window right now. It's disgusting. But we talk about the Lone Wolf, AJ Styles, and all that's left right now, though, is to tell the people goodbye, Marcus.
Bye, boys.